Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a if you like this book, try this book video. I'm not the first person to do this, but I do think that these videos, you kind of can't get enough of them. I'm always looking for recommendations. If you can recommend something to me from something else I already know I like, then I'm down. The booktuber Jessie May actually just recently did one of these videos. She reads a ton of fantasy, so she has a lot of suggestions that I think a lot of you would be interested in that happen to be basically all different suggestions than what I'm gonna mention, so I'll have her video linked. She's delightful. I only have two in this video that aren't fantasy, so I'm going to start with one of those. The book that I'm going to refer to first would be Vinland Saga. This is a manga. It also has an amazing adaptation that I want everybody to watch because it's so good. This is a historical fiction story that follows a young boy who is out for revenge. I think revenge stories can be very difficult to pull off because sometimes if you don't get it right, then I'm just annoyed at the character a lot, and that is not the case. The main character, Thorfinn, is somebody who is young, and the circumstances, I mean, he kind of gets stuck with the people who he wants revenge against, and these people are Vikings, and he kind of gets caught up in the life of a Viking, but also he's not really one of them. He's very alone. Some people in the story are real, and then some of them are essentially folklore individuals, and so you get a combination of those things, and I just think it's brilliantly done. It's incredibly moving, and so the one I want to recommend, I have been singing this series praises for a very long time, and that would be the Strongbow saga by Judson. This is historical fiction that follows a young boy who wants revenge because something happened to some people that they cared about. For me, this one is a little bit less kind of folklore, big picture stuff. It is a little bit more of an intimate examination of this character as opposed to Vinland Saga, where you get to know some of the other characters. This is first person point of view. It's obviously not a manga, but I just feel like if you like the feel of Vinland Saga, if you like the Viking setting, and if you like the examination of Thorfinn and his revenge arc, I think Halfdan and his revenge arc in this one are brilliantly done. And I also feel like I learned about Viking. Like, I felt like I was there in that time period. The Judson, the author, I just think captures the Viking feel so well. Next up would be Name of the Wind. I don't know how much introduction I need to give this particular story, but the book I'm going to recommend for people based off of your love of Name of the Wind is more based around the setup of the story. So the setup for Name of the Wind, for anybody that doesn't know, is that you have this man who has a reputation, and at the beginning of the story, this man is going to share his life story with someone. It's a very intimate examination of a character, and there's also this idea of how much of this is actually accurate. Is this narrator reliable? Because are they just sort of making themselves look better? Are they making certain things? Are they adding drama to it? I think that story, that setup, is very appealing to a lot of people, and a book that had a very similar setup but that I think is better, for my taste, would be Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. This is a series. I've not completed the series, but this first book, it's so good. It is, I think, kind of built into this setup that you're not going to get for the most high stakes of stories because you already know the person's still alive. So the story really has to pull you into the character. And I love Valen so much in this story. And he goes to this school, similar to Name of the Wind. You go to a school setting. But this particular school is just training him to be like a boss of a fighter. The things he has to go through are so extreme. And the friendships that he builds along the way as he grows into a man. I just loved learning about his life. I felt like kind of sort of like I was getting a biography of a really interesting person. And while it was maybe not the most action-packed, intense story, I fell in love with it. Also, the writing style is not, I would say, as lyrical as Name of the Wind is, but it is in some ways because it's slightly more dry, I guess you could say. There are some really funny parts that kind of catch you off guard because they're just kind of there all of a sudden, and there were multiple times that I found myself laughing out loud. Even though I wouldn't categorize this as a funny book, the funny parts were exceptionally funny to me because of the rest of the story. Next up, we have An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rodgerson. I'm not going to recommend her other work because I feel like if you like an author's work, it's kind of obvious that you might already want to check out her other stuff. What I am going to recommend based off of this one, if you love this, would be the Spin the Dawn duology. It's actually called The Blood of Stars, and the first one's Spin the Dawn. I was surprised. I mentioned this book recently, and I was surprised to see how many of you absolutely love this story, which is great. I think part of what makes this story so lovely is that it's charming, and I think that the descriptions are very lush and beautiful, but also it's a love story, and it's kind of a cutesy love story, and there's a little bit of banter, and I feel like the characters, it's one of those, they get to know each other through this exploration of places. And Spin the Dawn has a lot of those similar things going for it. So it is a duology. Enchantment of Ravens is 1 and done, where this one is 2 and done. So it's not like a really long series. I think if you're somebody who likes a shorter story, you know, you're sticking with that too with these. Our main character in this is somebody who kind of takes on the Mulan trope. She goes in her father/brother's place because the men in her family could have gone to fulfill this task, but instead she does it because she knows that she has the skill set that they don't have. And so this task is to compete to become the Emperor's tailor, seamstress person. And so our main character, Maya, she takes on this task and she has to disguise herself as a boy. And the descriptions of the clothes and everything, let me be honest for a second. Normally in fantasy books, I do not care that much about their clothes unless it's really interesting. I don't need to know about the clothes that in depth. But in this story, I was like, give me more. Tell me more about the colors and the materials. I just thought it was very magical, the way that the author describes clothes and the passion that the character has. Part of why she loves to do this so much is this connection that she had with her mother, who has passed away, and she has this connection through this because her mother sort of was the one to teach her. So there's a lot more to it, and I think a lot of us who have a deep love of a certain hobby can connect to that, and Enchantment of Ravens has that too. The main character is an artist, but the main reason that I think that these are good for if you like one or the other is the love story element of it. I do think that the love story actually plays a big role in this, and I didn't see the love story really presented much when I was seeing the description of the book or when I'd see people talk about it, and I do want to say I think it is pretty strongly at the forefront. It's still a magical story. It's still a story where you get to know the character. There are stakes, but I do think that the romance plays a big part of it, and it is one of those, we're traveling together, there's banter. If that's your thing, then you're gonna, I think, really like this duology. Next one, I am not going to go into detail too much because my reason for recommending it is very basic. If you like Witcher, I would highly recommend the manga, or there's an anime as well, of Claymore. This one follows a man who is a monster hunter and society views him a certain way. And then this one's also about a monster hunter and society views them a certain way. And that way that they view them is kind of similar. This one's about a fella, this one's about a lady. Next up, we have a recommendation for if you like Six of Crows, and the reason that I'm going to recommend the book that I'm going to recommend has nothing to do with the setup, has nothing to do with the tone of the story. It has 100% to do with the fact that Six of Crows is a story that I think a lot of it is about the examination of trauma and addiction and things of that sort. It's a deep examination throughout the entirety of the duology of these things that these young people have gone through, getting to know them, seeing how they are and why they are the way they are, that sort of a thing. If you like that connection to a character on that level, read Fireborn. So Fireborn is a book that I feel like I could have pulled so many other books and been like, if you like this one, read Fireborn. Also, if you like this one, read Fireborn. If you watched my review for it, you know that I thought this was one of the best books I've read. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's political fantasy. It's like a revolution setup where one of the characters was actually a part of the family that was overthrown, and he was a child when it happened, and now he's living in a society that celebrates the slaughtering of his family. So he's got some issues over here. And then you have another character who he became friends with in an orphanage, and this particular character, her family was killed by his terrible family. So they become friends through their childhood, but they're also like, I'm pretty sure that there's some interesting connections between us and our families. And there's dragons. They're wanting to become dragon riders. The first chunk of the book, I wouldn't say really makes you believe that we're going to get to know these characters that well. It kind of feels slightly generic at the beginning, but it so isn't. It's so good. Man, there were so many times I almost cried reading this book. I can't really say the parts exactly because they would be spoilers, but Annie, the girl character, talking about living in poverty and missing her family and the difficult decisions that these characters have to make. It's just, man, it's so good. Last on this list is actually going to be 3 books. So the first one I'm going to mention would be Geekerella. This is the other one on the list that's not fantasy. And this is a cutesy contemporary Cinderella retelling that follows this very nerdy girl who loves cosplay, and she owns her nerdiness. She's just super into it. She has this blog about this kind of Star Trek. It's essentially a Star Trek show. And she's really excited about the reboot, except for the guy that got cast. She's like, oh man. But this girl is somebody who, because it's a Cinderella retelling, she kind of has a sad situation where she lost her parents and now she's stuck with her stepmom who sucks and her stepsisters, and one of them is just the worst and all that kind of stuff. But at its core, it's about a girl who is kind of finding her place, and she's also embracing her nerdiness and kind of finding a way to combine who she is with what she loves, her passion. And so the book that I would recommend for that would be Slay. This is a story that tackles very different things. Instead of it being like, oh, there's family troubles, because the character in this actually has a delightful family who's very supportive of her, but she's dealing with a lot of things that are very difficult, having to do with race. There's a lot of really important topics that are discussed. I really felt that the way that the author has the character embrace, again, the kind of like embracing who you are through something that is typically nerdy, I just thought it was done really well. When reading this, it made me think of The Downstairs Girl. This is also discussing difficult topics having to do with race, but this one is historical fiction. It follows a Chinese American girl living in the South in a time that's not, the world isn't perfect even now, but some of the things that were going down in the South in America at this time, a little uncomfortable stuff, terrible stuff. And this main character, the tone of this story reminds me of the tone of this story, in that both of them they could have both gotten really sad and really tragic, but I definitely felt like both of these stories had this sense of hope in them. They also had moments that were sweet, moments that were somewhat lighthearted. I have one more as kind of an honorable mention, but I'm actually going to recommend that you watch Jesse's video if you want more elaboration, because I haven't actually finished the book Foundryside yet. I'm reading it right now, but it's very similar in a lot of ways to Sanderson's works, and like I said, I haven't finished it, so I feel like I can't elaborate, but Jesse loves Foundryside, so watch her video. You can get more information about that, because I know a lot of you are also big Sanderson fans. That's it for some of my suggestions for, hey, if you like this, look at this too. If you have any of your own suggestions for books I mentioned, and there are some that you think other people would also like, feel free to leave those in the comments down below. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.